Chances are, if you do the work, people might doubt the validity of your relationship, just like they are with Nicolandria. Chicks in the Office, Nick Vial, Lil Yachty. These people are a little shocked that Nick is actually into Olandria and they have left the island. As these lovebirds make their required PR rounds and do their little pageant waves, people are shook to see that this attraction that Nick has towards Olandria is a real thing. In a country that spent generations artificially keeping couples like this apart, it seems that people can't see how this could happen without production interference. The black girls know what's going on, but this is a good time for all of you people, good people, who feel undervalued or judged in the dating pool to gather round. And before we get started, to all the little white boys on this app defending Nicolandria and their girlfriends, I see you, I salute you, and I love this country. In a sea of internet advice about what you have to do to be considered high value, people get really mad when you as a single mom or a man without a six-pack or somebody who is not 6 foot ends up in a happy, mutually fulfilling relationship. Maybe you don't even make a single dollar, but you're coupled up and you're living your best life. There is nothing more annoying to people who have been killing themselves to meet a standard that you don't even sneeze at to see you doing okay anyways. Then we have these reality TV shows that mirror back to us who is considered the most competitive in the beauty, the looks, the charisma department to compete for love in a relationship. They mirror back to us some of these societal ideas of what we think of as worthy. And so what we might not expect for ourselves, we expect a lot for these people. And this is where some nasty things get revealed. People can fall apart a little bit when the cast and the metrics that we use to rank other people don't necessarily bear out well in real life. We've talked a gazillion times about where dark-skinned women rank in the American social conceptualization of value and low value, right? And we typically just leave it right there. But what we haven't talked about is how these podcasters, these shows, these cast members that are on shows like this, they've all been born relatively recently. We're talking like the 90s, the early 2000s, some of them even the 80s. So you would think that they would not necessarily have these retro ideas. Where is this coming from? America is facing an existential crisis, that's why. And that existential crisis comes out of the fact that the media has in some ways changed hands. Now, this is good news for you and me. In the last 20 years, we have watched as diverse, beautiful groups of American citizens have an increasing digital ability to talk about their own American lives. Their experiences in this democracy, they're filming in real time. We have John Green's Crash Course and this kind of explosion and this openness to learn about our amazing and troubled history in a way that was before meted out by a textbook situation, or if your public school allowed true history to be taught. So now what do you have? You have citizens talking amongst other citizens, just as how we're able to vote and put our own voice on this show. There was a period where you just watched whatever The Bachelor gave you. You just learned the history that people felt comfortable giving you. Now it's not just professors or people who specifically choose to make their entire life about sociology who are talking about these things. It's everyday, normal Americans talking amongst each other and going, whoa, I don't really like the fact that this democracy tends to value corporate interests over the collective good of everyone living in this democracy. You have more Americans wanting to vote, work, and create the democracy that they feel like they were promised years ago. You have people learning about these really cool coalitions of white people and indigenous people and African American people and Caribbean people, all these different people who make up the American story, coming together and making their neighborhood what they want it to be. It gets really inspiring when you realize America has always wrestled with this question of curtailing democracy in favor of corporate interests and making an economic superpower for a small group of people, or serving the vast, incredible group of people who live here. It's actually really comforting when you realize, people have always argued and wondered what to do, whether they should support a state that sustains an economy that's founded on human exploitation or a cool idea like democracy. This is not my opinion. This is fascinating, ongoing history. But when you have normal, everyday people waking up to the ways that they might want the democracy to actually work for them, you, if you have power and money, have to meet that with brilliant strategy. And has that brilliant strategy worked? You have to instill fear and division so that the people do not come together. That looks like moral panics, scapegoating minorities. It looks like romanticizing oppression and reshaping it as traditional values so you don't have to face the existential crisis that comes when you realize that your nation might not be what you thought it was, and it might not deliver you what you thought it would deliver you. We have grown up under James Dobson and Jimmy Swaggart and Candace Owens even scaring everybody back into their places. We're told if we just give up a little bit of our freedoms to squash the boogeyman of this election cycle, we'll all be good. And this has worked for generations because guess what? It's really uncomfortable to realize that there's still a lot of American work to do. And instead of facing that, dealing with it, grieving it, and moving on, it's easier to just retreat to a story that makes us feel better about why things are broken in the first place. It's easier to think that we went off course and things got broken, like I mentioned, than it is to realize, oh, I live in a state that wasn't designed for me. Our country isn't perfect, and it's up to us to get involved to make a more perfect union. But some people get lazy about that. We don't want to admit that maybe our parents and our grandparents lived in illegal apartheid and didn't do anything. But good news, it's not the final story of our young nation, and we still get to talk about Nicolandria. Look at them, aren't they cute? Okay, anyways, in the 2020s, George Floyd is murdered by the police, and this uprising happens. This uprising shifted public opinion to a degree that people who did polls and who worked on the science of public opinion had not seen in decades. The institutional brutality and violence of the police system has been something that's been recognized by rural white people, Native American people, and of course, Black people. But for more people to recognize how that is attached to the state's corporate interests and how it has to do with protecting people's property, this was new. And what do they say about tides rising? Well, tide tends to raise other ships. People started to connect the dots. People started talking about what they wanted for themselves and their American dreams. People were like, wait, we can push America forward in a vision of liberty and justice for all. And guess what? That freaks people out because that means that the status quo of power and money might shift a little bit. And guess who swooped in to take advantage of that? Trump and his attendant acolytes who stoked and instilled fear in the people. They lied about other Americans to Americans and activated these sleeper cell biases, some not so sleeper cell, to get them to vote against their own best interests. And once again, we are living under a conservative power structure, one that is siphoning resources from you, the American people, to the ruling class. That makes people uncomfortable and scared, and what do we tend to do? Oh, retreat back to a story that makes us feel like maybe we can control something, because right now, a lot of you feel like I have no control over what's happening. Kim Kardashian wearing a prairie dress should have been a warning to all of you. All mental and social progress is one step forward and two steps back. And young people who feel uncertain about the way that their dreams are not coming true, they retreat back to old scripts to get a sense of normalcy. That's how you have 20-somethings on podcasts interrogating Nick about his attraction to a beautiful dark-skinned woman. Those unexamined biases about being thin, being blonde, and being fertile, they're back. That's why men like Andrew Tate screaming and bullying other young men has been acceptable for so long. People feel lost, they want a checklist, and if your masculinity or femininity is something you have to earn, you're just that much more controllable. Nick is a hot, white, popular guy who is about to cash out on some significant brand deals. Guess what that makes him in the dating pool? High value. According to old metrics, he has one of the highest social values that anyone in this country can possibly have. So guess what? He's assumed to pick someone with similar high social value. Shocker, some white women will assume that that is them. What is the entire social history of dark-skinned Black women in this country? Oh, being legally assigned the lowest social ranking. In the mid-2010s, when you're having content for Black people, by Black people, you were getting explicit calls to not cast dark-skinned women. They only wanted light-skinned girls. The country's default social positioning, legal positioning towards dark-skinned Black women, use them and leave them. Some of you hear that and go, oh, Alex, are you saying that white people are bad? No, I'm saying that a country, any country, will make up an arbitrary story about the bodies that they happen to kidnap and capture to get capital out of. People with European ancestry, they're not the problem. A racist and classist socialization, that's the issue. People assumed that Sierra, who they ranked in their heads as higher value than Olandria because she was lighter skinned, was going to recouple up with Nick at the end of all this. Lil Yachty himself doesn't even probably fully grasp why he doubts in a love like this, because all people have are their default metrics. It's amazing to me that so many other people have walked off this show, or even The Bachelor, and yes, of course, people have their, oh, it's reality TV, maybe it's not real, but the level of interrogation that they're getting is not because they were on reality TV. It's because this is a love story people are not used to seeing, and they're not used to legitimizing in their own head. Just like Sierra, they didn't see Olandria as a threat to their connection or access to Nick, because what is Olandria to them? We all have preferences, not because we're all inherently evil, but because we've been socialized. And just like so many aspects of our American history, at any moment we can stand up and say, oh, the story about these bodies and the story about my body, it's not true. You need to read A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn and Cue the Sun by Emily Nussbaum, which is about the history of reality TV. Let me know if you actually want me to dig deeper into what was said on these interviews that Nick went on. And until then, I want to hear what you thought about this latest PR situation.